Hi, I'm Pia Morato, and my program is Education Radio, aired every Saturday from 8 to 9 in the morning on RadyoBandido.TV, simulcast on DZRJ 8:10 a.m., on Sky Cable Channel 224, TV Plus boxes, and on free-to-air TV, facebook.com, DZRJ 8:10 a.m., and our official YouTube channel. Don't forget to watch Education Radio every Saturday, where we take the streets into the classroom and the classroom to the streets.
Hi, I think we're live. Good morning, Manila. Good morning, Philippines. Good morning, world, and welcome to Education Radio. So today we will really be all about education. So our focus, I guess, would be more on the academic world, and our favorite, lifelong learning. And today we have a very special guest. Her name is Dr. 𝗘𝗱𝘂𝗰𝘁𝗶cie Dr. Arlene, welcome to Education Radio. Thank you for being with us today.
Good morning, Miss Pia, and good morning to everyone who are watching right now.
Dr. Arlene, I'd leave it up to you now to tell us about yourself. I know that you are a faculty member at the PNU College, but there's a little bit more to you. So please let our listeners and our people who are viewing our show know.
Yeah, once again, good morning. I'm 𝗘𝗱𝘂𝗰𝘁𝗶cie. I work at the Philippine Normal University, College of Graduate Studies in Teachers Education Research. So also I finished my doctoral degree at the Beijing Normal University, and Doctor of Philippine Studies, completed academic requirements at the University of the Philippines, Diliman, and my master's, the same university, Masters of Art in Education, major in chemistry, and my bachelor. I took my bachelor at the Philippine Normal University.
Wow, my chemistry pa, ma'am, ha? That's hard.
Yes,
Yeah. I mean, you have a good mix of both, the arts, chemistry. How did you do this? You have a very broad mind, ma'am.
Yeah, before I really, I focused my interest on science education, and that's why I took chemistry as my area of specialization. But when I'm getting younger, so I focus my interest to the society, culture, and the environment. That's why I shifted to the Philippine study and the Filipino identity. Well, it's still on the arena of education, but looking into the economic, the politics, the environmental, and the socio-cultural implication of the society to our education. That is why I think it's more beneficial, more useful if we can connect what we have learned and what we are practicing in the world of education or in the world of academe into our society.
It makes sense because what we are trying to advocate here all the time is also lifelong learning. And yes, we need to advocate also to the changes so that we can apply certain skills to the needs of our society. And I love that you have gone through all these studies. Right now, in my opinion, I feel like, well, apart from being a humanities graduate, I think it's something that we need to also look into again, right? Culturally speaking, you have said that. And it's interesting that just like you, ma'am, I share the same experiences being able to study in universities abroad. But I'd like to begin with by asking what it was like for you to study in Beijing Normal University.
Actually, academically speaking, it's the same education theory that you will learn, you will gain. Okay, no matter where you are in the world. Okay, that's why I think the degree that I got from abroad, it's a bonus for me. I think the more meaningful learning experience I got outside the country, it's, you know, observing the society of other country, their culture, and then their way of life and the education that they are advocating. So when it comes to education theory, I think it's the same. That is why I think there's a lot of new theories emerging, and then the classic theory that we continue and trying to understand and trying to apply. But studying abroad, it's more of the experience that I gained, you know, interacting with them, not just the locals there, but also with other international students and scholars that I met there. So it's not purely understanding the theory of education, the classic and the emerging, but applying those classic and emerging theory of education, which is more relevant and responsive to the need of the society, like in the case of China, where China has its own unique identity and context when it comes to education. And, you know, observing what they are doing there and learning from them, I think it's more meaningful as compared to the degree that I'm getting. But of course, it's you know, the degree that I gained at earned, it's something that I could also share with our fellow Filipinos.
This wasn't too long ago, right, Doctora? I think it was around 2014, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I went there 2014 and finished in 2017, and now I'm serving to our Philippine government as a government servant of our education sector.
Yes, that's right. Because it's nice what you learn. You have to really bring back, you know, to your country and apply certain best practices or shared knowledge, right? Because the world is not just about us, you know, but for us, we have to put ourselves first since we're Filipinos, right? But did you have a hard time adjusting? What was it like first personally?
Given that China and Philippines is in the same continent, I think it's not that much adjustment that I did. We have a lot of commonalities, similarities, on top of the differences. Yeah, there are distinct differences, but I observe more commonalities rather than differences. Well, maybe the differences, maybe because their size when it comes to population, the resources that they have, and then the attitude, the background, and then the historical background. But even in the historical background, we have these commonalities because, you know, it's a colonized country, the Philippines and China. But yeah, I don't see much differences, and well, when it comes to adjustment, very, very little adjustment.
In terms of the learning experience, did you have to cope? Did you find it? What was the level of difficulty in terms of the learning?
I think in a scale of 1 to 5, maybe 4. In terms of population, the population of you know, students in their respective universities is really big. That is why the competition, you can feel the competition of each faculty, of each student. They are trying their best to improve, you know, themselves, to really compete and, you know, do their best and do their share. Especially if you are a faculty of a certain university and you really want to share more in your university. I think that's the great you know, observation. Very competitive and non-stop working, especially when it comes to top university. I'm referring to top universities here in the Philippines and in China.
And how did you fare, ma'am? Do you think you fared well?
I think I'm a bit lower compared to them. They
Really?
are really, yeah, they are really, when it comes to perseverance, when it comes to, hard work, I'm a bit lower compared to them.
They
Because
work
maybe
hard. I
maybe
see
they are
that. I
trained that
really see that.
well.
Yeah.
Yeah. They are trained that well since maybe at their young age they already exposed to the different competition, and they really inculcate to them the value of education and the value of the contribution that they can give to their society.
Did you have a difficult time in terms of technology wise, for example?
Technology wise, I'm so surprised.
Mhm.
We are, if not one decade, half decade behind compared to them when it comes to the access of education resources, when it comes to education infrastructure. We are really behind. Knowing that, I'm from one of the top universities here in the Philippines and studying on there in one of their top universities, I think, yeah, one decade, if not half decade behind when it comes to education, resources, facilities, and infrastructure.
So, having to cope with all that while you were studying in Beijing, coming back to the Philippines must have also been an adjustment for you. It was
Yeah.
for me when I also studied abroad. Coming back to the Philippines, in my case, I felt so excited. I wanted to do so many things. I had, like you, coped with so much advancement as well, and then you want to be able to bring that back to your own country, right? And the process in itself can be a little bit frustrating, at least in my own experience. But what about you, Doctora?
Yeah, I feel the same. I agree.
Yeah.
Because before I went to China, I'm a bit afraid and confused, and I'm just thinking, okay, China is a very awkward society and country with a very poor people. Just what we watch from the different documentaries. But when I went there, experienced the society there. I think, as what I've said, it's if we are not one decade behind, half decade. And when I came back here in 2017, I don't know. It's really, again, a period of adjustment. You need to wait. The bureaucracy, the very frustrating, very slow moving system, and the things that I can access, there I cannot access here. Well, China has its own way. If you're in China, you cannot access, Google and other website, but you can access it in a different way. But in here, I think the when it comes to journal subscription, doing research, doing a lot of academic work, we have a limited resources as compared to them. That's why I think it's more difficult when I move back here in the Philippines. More adjustment as compared to moving there. I think the adjustment that I experienced there, the most challenging adjustment is the language. Of course, I don't speak their language, but really they helped me to guide me how to survive even without studying their language. And yeah, we are learning from each other. They are learning English from me, and I'm learning a bit of Chinese from them. And yeah, and given that kind of strong support system, should I say, I survived there. And when I went back here, I think everything getting slow. When I
Yeah.
moved there, everything is so fast.
Yeah. So I now have to jump into your um, assessment of, in terms of all these things that's happening educational wise. We have also often spoken in this show about research and development. So, in your opinion, where would we be at in terms of research and the development in our own educational system? We have stated before that it's a big need. We need it so badly. So, what would your opinion be?
Yeah, I think in the scale of 1 to 5 again, I think we are in maybe 2.5.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's fair or getting there. 2.5. Okay. 5.5 pa kasi. So,
Yeah. I think, yeah. Well, many of the top universities here in the Philippines, yes, they are producing a lot of researches. And we can do so much when it comes to education reform and academic reform by means of evidence-based. Okay.
yeah.
But still, we don't have enough. Take note, we don't have enough evidence through research where we can, use in order to implement and, monitor and most of all, evaluate the existing education system that we have here in the Philippines. Like in the K-12 curriculum, it's been a decade or,
Mhm.
I think a decade into next year. But still, we have, I don't know if we have this concrete and enough research based on evidence that we can say that the implementation of the K-12 curriculum is really good and effective, and they and can prove that this is the what we call seamless curriculum for Filipino learners. So that is why, as a faculty of the Philippine Normal University, we encourage the pre-service and in-service teachers to do more research, okay? Because that's the only thing that we could contribute as educator to produce an evidence-based research in their respective school, in their respective region, and even in their respective district or school district.
Mhm. Yes. I think in my opinion, the K to 12, the intent was really, really good. I have to say that I was also trying to promote it, but uh, there is a call, or there has been a call, and I agree with that call in terms kasi of our product also. We're talking, when we speak about research and development, we have to have we have to know if the products have been, are good products, right, of the K to 12. And the reassessment of the K to 12 is actually a fair assessment because we don't know. We don't know the products, right? We don't know if our students are actually getting the jobs that they need to get, hope to get. Like in my case, for example, when I was at the Department of Education, the products of foreign languages, I wasn't just after the learning of the language. I wanted to see the effects of it in the world of commerce, for example, hospitality and all that. So after my stint at DepEd, I had to personally venture into these other areas to ensure that there were products that could benefit with jobs. And it's very little. On my end, that's just a small part, right? In your case, ma'am, I think what you're saying also is the products may be so broad because there are two pathways. You have the university and then you have the technical skills. What, in your opinion, now is has it been like, right? Are we producing more learners in the field of technical skills or vocational skills or universities? I really can't say much about it at this point.
I think we can look back at the trifocalization law, where before we used to have a centralized system of education, wherein the higher education, the basic education, and then the technical education, it's in one department. But now, in 1994, they tripocalize it.
Yeah.
Only to find out that, the proper, the correct harmonization, can I use the word, was not able to establish. There must be a harmonized system among them, CHED, TESTA, and DepEd. Unfortunately, TESTA become one of the options. And basic education is the compulsory education. And it seems that the higher education is one also of the compulsory education, but TESDA could only serve as the exit for those who cannot get a degree in the university. Of course, it's given that not everybody can go to college, but giving the same importance, giving the same weight as the higher education and basic education, we should focus also on the same weight on the technical vocational education. And that's what I don't know, I think, sorry for the word, but I think we missed to properly harmonize the three system.
Yes.
And that's why we have now the EDCOM2. They are trying to revisit what significant role these three systems were able to contribute when it comes to offering quality education for our Filipino learners.
I'd like to know more about the EDCOM, but before I jump into that, I just want to say, in the case of DepEd, in my time also, we saw how DepEd, this is at the time of former President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo, okay? She had that very same idea in her mind. She's an educator after all, right? The harmonization of all these three branches, if you want to call that, in education. And in our case, DepEd was very masipag in trying to harmonize with higher education and TESTA. But it's also very difficult if those branches do not respond, right? So then, you don't get that result, right? You don't get that result. Hence now the EDCOM, do you have that specific a reaction as well? Like, how are you going to solve how do you intend to solve this concern?
Actually, the move to have an EDCOM2 is a very good move, since I think there's a really a need to revisit the 1994 EDCOM1, because every decade, if not every half decade, we have this fast changing landscape of education. And if we will not change the EDCOM1 to EDCOM2, we are not responding to the need of our society or to the global demand of when it comes to economics of education. That is why EDCOM2 is a very good move, especially now that we observe that there are the three agencies or lack of harmonization. And I congratulate those senator and congressman and education leaders who pushed through for this EDCOM2. But
Yes.
of course, we really need to, again, it's been a decade of implementation of K-12 curriculum. This is the best time to evaluate. Unfortunately, I cannot say, and I cannot say much, and I don't know much about the monitoring in the past 10 years. And now we are going, I think we are in the stage that we should evaluate the K-12 curriculum. The problem with that is, how can we evaluate the curriculum without proper monitoring? That's a very big challenge.
Yes, that's a very big challenge. So who would be in charge of monitoring?
Actually, if you ask me who will be in charge of monitoring, I think it is everybody's responsibility, from the classroom teachers up to the Department of Education. What is the contribution of one another, of each one of us, on how to monitor? Well, the DepEd also instructed many teachers, if not the classroom teachers, master teachers, to do action research. So those action research could also use as a basis on how they could improve the implementation and monitoring of the K-12 curriculum. But I don't know how effective it is, but I know that there's a program that DepEd, push in order to monitor the implementation of the K-12 curriculum.
Yes, that's but right, because teachers are managers of their own classroom. So you're right when you say that it should basically begin with them, no? The teachers. I hope that would go well, because it's also very, very difficult. I think the factor of teacher training would come in. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, actually,
This is just really a very broad thing, and we're trying to just make it himay for everybody else. But yes, the teacher training comes in, right?
yes, actually, the quality of teachers. Actually, the Philippine Normal University partnered with the Department of Education, training those in-service teachers. Unfortunately, I think before comes the training, we need to recruit really the committed teachers. We are just like, doctors and lawyers, the future of our client, the future of our learners somehow really affect our performance. If we cannot perform well, how can we help them? And the level of commitment should come first. We can really easily train teachers. It's easy to provide trainings for them. A lot of trainings are being offered left and right. Okay, but we cannot offer that much when it comes to inculcating them the commitment, the level of commitment of offering quality education. That's another thing. And some schools, some universities and colleges, I think they are not performing that much when it comes to inculcating the commitment of being a classroom teachers. How much more when it comes to training?
Yeah, that's a challenge, a really big challenge. Maybe that's why it explains why we somewhat fall behind. Because going back to your studies in Beijing, I pretty much would tend to believe that because of so much competition, they are harmonized. Wouldn't you agree?
I think, yeah, we really need to, I witness that kind of situation. I think it's really, we need to reflect. Our nearby countries, Korea, Japan, and the rest of the Southeast Asian countries, they are moving fast, and they are trying their best to advance their education. I hope we can do the same. But it's not just limited to teacher training. There's so much more to address aside from teacher training.
Yeah, like why do you think they're moving fast, Doctora? Why do you think our neighboring countries are moving fast?
Now that we experience the new normal, when it comes to technology, okay, when it comes to technology, we are, losing our track. Okay, when it comes to facilities and infrastructure, again, it's another challenge. How much more? And also, our country, geographically speaking, it's connected by water, not separated by water. Connected by water, so a lot of islands and islets, mountainous area, and how to reach and offer quality education for those in the remote and far-flung areas. When we say Filipino learners, it's not the learners who are residing here at the national capital region or big cities in the Philippines. When we say Filipino learners, it's from the rural to urban areas. And if we want to promote quality education, as we are committed to do so, as we one of the signatories of the 2030 SDGs, I think promoting quality education and reducing inequalities, we should also focus when it comes to facilities, infrastructure, and technology of other schools outside the big cities or urban areas.
Do you think that we can produce even more teachers who would actually want to dedicate their vocation in these areas? Do you look into these things as well?
Yeah, why can't we not offer scholarship for those IP students so that they could help their fellow IP students? Why can't we offer teacher scholarship, education scholarship for those IP people who are really, who really want to contribute to the improvement of their, tribe.
Yes.
Also, we really need to also recruit, pre-service teachers or future teachers who are disabled or well, when I say disabled, it's as physically challenged, or maybe some of the members of the PWDs, so they can teach their, fellows. So I think there are a lot of opportunities, we can offer to this group of people who really need special attention and special needs.
I like that you say that, because one of the things that my companions and I learned also in China is the fact that even, and we're talking technology because, we were there to really explore our, what we can share with one another in terms of science, technology, and media, right? And it was so interesting to see that even their own movies, their homemade movies, are so strong. And you're smiling because I'm sure you had more of this. You stayed there for 3 years. You were in Beijing for 3 years, right? But they're so strong. You feel the patriotism, even the message, the communications. Because this is really, we were there for communications, and the communications in their own homegrown productions tell their people, to do something, to be somebody, so that they can take it back to where they came from and improve the area. My former guest last Saturday is a counselor who was with us, a counselor from Davao City, Councilor 𝗘𝗱𝗂𝗰𝘁𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗃 And, it really touched him also because here in the Philippines, sometimes we're told to study hard so that you can leave. To study hard so you can, work abroad, find a work abroad, live abroad. But it was so different what we experienced in China, where they're told to work hard, study hard so you can bring back. You can bring it back to where you came from. And mind you, where in these movies, where they come from, it's really, places that are difficult to develop. But we're talking development also here, right? So again, your opinion, because it is an education for all of us, right? We have to incorporate this and inculcate it to our own students, our learners.
Yeah, I think, Pia, you're right. When it comes to, supporting our local artists, our local culture, our local heritage, we lack of that. Sad to say. India has their own, Bollywood, and US has its own Hollywood, and China has its own also. Philippines, I'm not saying that don't patronize the K-pop or other foreign, movies, and studying the pop culture of other countries and even the classic culture. But I think it's about time. In the 1970s, 80s, we developed a very good, like Lino Broca and some of Mars Rabelo, and we cannot even produce one this time, and we keep on reviving. Now it's more of developing, creating in the new normal, in the new context. I hope we could also inculcate in our education, giving importance to the local history, to the local artists, to the local talents that we have here in the Philippines. That's another challenge that we need to face in education, and it has economic implication. Imagine the concerts every month, not every year. Maybe it's every quarter and every month. Coldplay is going here in it's going to visit here in the Philippines. A lot of international artists gaining so much, acknowledgement and even, money. But how about our local artists? How we could promote them and how we could support them? I think it's about time again and again to revisit. Given this, a review of the EDCOM 2, because DEX before, it's text before, the Department of Education, Culture, and Sports. Imagine that. So the culture that we should, instill to our future generation, not just reviving and reviving, we should create and recreate the identity of Filipino through, whatever avenue, maybe it's movie, it's, it's a dance or other things. So, and again, the sports, we only have one gold Olympic awardee. Okay, in that's Heidelin. How about others? Many neighboring country, they are producing a lot of Olympians. How we could support our athlete? So another thing to revisit.
Yeah, another thing. That's why I'm curious, because you're speaking of the EdCom, ma'am.
In China, elementary education, before they finish, and even a teacher before they could graduate and get the license, they should know one sports.
Yeah.
They should know one sports. The same thing, they should know how to play one musical instrument. But here in the Philippines, I think only music and PE teachers could do that. But in their case, the elementary teachers, all elementary teachers must know how to play at least one musical instrument and must know one sports. That's part of their teacher education curriculum. And as
How are you
early
going to incorporate that in the EdCom, ma'am?
well,
like
I think we
teachers,
have
oh
this
my
brilliant
goodness.
mind, designing this curriculum. Maybe they will say, that's already there. The challenge is how to strengthen and how to implement it properly.
Yeah, I understand that. But going to the products now, our youth, okay? What I loved seeing so much, and just as like a co-educator as yourself, what in China was a participation of the youth. And I'm talking about the youth in ASEAN countries, Vietnam, right? Indonesia. And I want to be part of that, right? I want the Philippine youth to be part of that. But they're looking, and they want us. ASEAN wants us, but why? Somewhat, I can say, what's happening? Why are we not at par? I see the youth. It's very frustrating as an educator. I see the youth. They're so, our youth are so talented. And that is one thing that I say when I'm in another country. Our youth, they're so talented. We have so much talent. Filipinos have so much talent. They want to tap into us, but why are we not part? If I can say that word, why are we not part?
Actually, yes, I agree with you, Pia. Many of our young Filipinos, they are really, really talented. They can learn as fast as they could. They can, can adjust as fast as they could. They really want to participate. Their desire is really high. They want to showcase their talents here and abroad. Unfortunately, proper support again. Financially, well, very few could afford to go abroad to showcase their talents. And even here in the Philippines, the mobility of our youth from one place to another is very limited because of the lack of funding. They need to, during the summer, they need to seek sponsors, donors for them to showcase their talents. But in other country, the funds is there.
It's there because they have a whole, they have a whole academy or whatever for it, specific for it, with the funding allotted to it.
So I think that's another challenge that we need to hurdle. The mobility of youth. They are really, really that active and talented. And I don't want to see, losing their interest, wasting their talents. Their great participation. It's really in, we really need that. but the proper support system from the government and even from the NGOs and the community. We really need that. Well, I agree that the government cannot do it all. That's why
Yes,
we have
definitely
this
not.
corporate social responsibility. We have this public educational public-private partnership. You know, we cannot give all the burden to the Commission on Higher Education. We cannot give all the responsibility to the Department of Education.
That's right.
Everybody must do their share.
Yes, that's right. We must all be invested. Hence, the Philippine educational system, in your viewpoint, is everybody's business,
Yes.
shall we say? Yeah, I agree. It's everybody's business. But if you're going to get civil society, the family, it has to start with the family, Doctora. I mean, let's not forget about that, because, you know, we have early childhood education also, and it begins with the family.
Yeah, actually, Pia, we observe the significance of the role of the family, the household to our, young kids, especially this pandemic. We felt really the need, their support at home. Without proper nutrition, without, teaching the discipline, the basics of, the values, the discipline. It's not just the discipline, it's the values that they really need to understand first. And also making these children emotionally, psychologically, and mentally safe and happy, because now we are facing a global challenge when it comes to mental health. That's why left and right during the pandemic, we are very much focused on how to address the mental health, dilemmas and challenges, not just of these young kids, but also the old age.
Yes. Do you think we have a resilient youth, Doctora?
Yes, as compared
Took
to
a
other
deep breath
nations.
there, huh?
Actually, that's one of the best, character that I could showcase to the world and to China. There's a resilience of our youth and some of the Filipino people. So even they are, experiencing so much hardship and challenges, they are very much resilient. But take note, this is a caution. We should not romanticize the resilience of these Filipino people, because that creates a negative impact to our society, romanticizing this resilience of our Filipino youth.
That explains your deep breath and mine, because I feel the same way. So Philippine studies, Doctora, then you've shifted into science education, go to Beijing, learn all these things, come back to the Philippines. What were you somewhat successful in your journey?
Well, right now, based on my experience and the experience that I got, that I visited 15 provinces, the richest provinces, the top, provinces when it comes to technological advancement, when it comes to education. But I also visited the poorest, provinces there in China, and I see the big gap between the rural and the urban, the rich and the poor. And I think that's a very good and meaningful experience for me, because also I myself, I'm from the province, and I see the hardship of the Filipinos in a rural and remote areas. And also I visited a lot of provinces from Luzon to Mindanao, and I see those challenges. And I'm here now at the Imperial Manila, the center of power of this country, and I really experienced the privilege of having at the center. So I think now I realize that we really need to strike a balance, give what is due to the learners here in the city, and give what is due to the learners in a rural area. Yes, I think when it comes to, we cannot have this what we call the equality. If we cannot really achieve this what we call equality, I hope we can focus on equity.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. Could you elaborate that further? Why equity?
Yeah, I think it's really easy to say that we should promote equality. But it's
Yeah.
a very challenge, geographically speaking, economically speaking, resource-wise. It's really difficult to have this equality. But you know, well, it's something that for me it's utopic or utopia. So, well, yeah, we can give so much to the learners here in the city, and we can also give so much to the learners in a rural area. So that's what I mean. If they need something that they really need for them to survive in that particular place and to uplift their family from poverty and, uplift their economic status, why not? Also here in an urban area, we can give so much help, yes, because the need and the demand of a big city is really overwhelming. That's why we also need this to support the marginalized, children here in the city. So that's what do I mean by equity.
Yeah. It's a difficult task, but it needs to get done. Also, I want to ask you, Doctora, in terms of languages, okay, you're smiling. I want you to give us an opinion, on why we Filipinos, it's not a luxury anymore, to speak another language. I was not just fortunate to have been born in a family that spoke another language, but I use it. I even used it in Beijing. The Chinese in Beijing are speaking Spanish, and we would speak to one another in Spanish, and they couldn't believe it, right? That, a Filipino could speak 3 languages. What more, there are other Filipinos who speak more languages pa than me, for sure. But to the youth, like languages, what can you say about it? It's so important.
Uh, for me, I'm, having 186 languages here in the Philippines. I think it's an advantage, but it has its own disadvantages. Learning a lot of languages, it's an advantageous on the part of the learner. But having the proficiency
Yeah.
in 1 or 2 languages, it's another thing.
Yeah.
So I read one column about the 186 languages because they are contesting. We just focus on English and Filipino language as the official languages of the Philippines. But we have 186. Actually, the challenge with 186 languages, we don't have much clear orthography on that, and that's not the responsibility of our learner.
Yeah.
We should not give the burden of documenting, studying the orthography of different languages of their respective provinces. When I was invited to talk about the languages, I think they failed to recognize that if a child speaking English, a Filipino child living in Davao or in Cebu, the English language that he or she's using, it's the mother tongue.
Mother tongue. Yeah.
Unfortunately, there are misconceptions when it comes to the use of mother tongue here in the Philippines. The implementation of mother tongue is not that good. Some are complaining, some are very thankful for having that because they are preserving the local language. But I think it's more of preserving the culture. I think it's more of the competencies of the learners. So if we want to our children to become more multilingual here in the Philippines and abroad, I think the first thing is they should give a chance to study the correct and the proper orthography of that particular language, which is the responsibility of educator and our linguists. Next, proper learning materials. They should provide sufficient and quality assured learning materials for those languages. When I was in Beijing, Foreign Languages University, they offered a lot of languages. Yeah, you're right. There are some Chinese speaking in Spanish, German, French, and everything. And they really try to get one foreign language before they finish their bachelor. So that's their aim. And I also invited in Peking University to teach Filipino language, though I'm not a Filipino teacher or I'm not a language teacher, but I'm a native speaker of Filipino or Tagalog. That's why they hired me for 2 years giving a special lecture to those students who are willing to learn Filipino language and who are willing to visit the Philippines. So that's a very good opportunity for those Chinese learners. I hope this country could also offer these languages, studying language for free, or if not for free, with a minimal amount. So our Filipino learners and our young generation could not only explore the Philippines, but also could explore the world. Yes, one of the
The
most
world and the world market, Doctora.
and yes, the world market. So traveling is one of the most expensive way of learning, but it's the one of the most meaningful one.
That is true, right? Yeah, I actually I appreciate so much the way I've seen personally, even before going to China. I saw it in Europe how they really want to learn. They learn the languages, outside of the country. Also, they come in as sometimes as traders. They want to make business, and they eventually own businesses, can believe it or not. Like, that's how hardworking they are, but they do so much in trying to learn a language as well. And then they go back home and they take it back there with trade. It becomes so big, right? And I really want that for
Yeah,
us.
the language is the key to the business world. If you know the language of business, aside from the spoken language, that could really help. I observe a lot of Filipinos and other foreign nationalities from move to Beijing or to China, to Japan, and even some Koreans. Yeah, they can do a very good business because they know the language. I feel medyo naiinggit nga po ako sa iba na mga kababayan natin, because the Cebuanos, they can learn as many as 4 languages aside from Filipino and English. In my case, I only knew Filipino and English, nothing else. So malaking advantages po if they know other languages aside foreign language. Given the chance we have 186 languages here in the Philippines. Learning 1 or 2 of them or 5 of them, I think it's another advantage for our Filipino learners.
So for our final words, Doctora, what now would you say can we all do to cooperate in trying to fix, our educational system? And maybe you can incorporate also the K to 12, your ideas on what we should be doing with this K to 12. There was a column. I know I read something in the Philippine Star. You also said something in the Philippine Star about this, about the K to 12. No, so how can we make this more everybody's business? Because it is. We shouldn't be pointing fingers at agencies or whatever, because yes, there should really be harmonization. And yes, we have to admit also that there's a failure somewhere there, right? When they're not harmonizing somewhat, right? But again, what can everybody do about our educational system?
I think it's not for me, Pia, it's not an issue of K to 10 plus 2. It's not an issue of K to 12, but it's an issue of how to harmonize the trifocalized system. Okay. And
Doon talaga, Mama.
Opo.
Doon
And then
talaga tayo.
proper implementation, monitoring, and evaluation. Nandun po yung failure. It's a good thing that BP Sara admitted during her speech that the system really failed. And that's a humbling statement coming from one of the highest personality or government official. The system failed. We failed. Yes, admitted. We cannot deny the fact that we failed. But given that failure, I think we should stand and work to start again. Okay, given we have this K to 12, given we want to change it to K to 10 plus 2.
Plus 2, yeah.
But I think they should think first. How about the implementation? How about the monitoring and evaluation? how we should go through and how we could properly implement that kind of thing. Because no matter what, Pia, one of the Chinese professor, I learned from him, there are, only three certain things in this world. First, death. Second, tax. Third, education reform.
Yeah.
So it's really a challenging, tasks to have this kind of education reform, because we really need to every now and then update, respond to the global demand when it comes to economics, when it comes to politics, when it comes to culture, and when it comes to environment. So
Yeah.
we really need to have this reform, unending reform. But how effective this reform, how we could properly implement this kind of reform in education.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show, Doctora. It's good to know that you are really doing your best in helping our educational system, because we here in Education Radio believe that education is the greatest equalizer, and in total, that is what you have been saying here to this morning. So thank you so much for being on our show today. And I hope to have you again soon.
Thank you so much for
Thank you so much. This has been Tia Morato with Dr. 𝗘𝗱𝘂𝗰𝘁𝗶𝐿, hasta luego, everyone. Bye. Happy weekend. Thank you. Thank you.
The views and comments of the hosts and guests are not necessarily those of the station.